Hey everybody, and welcome back. We're pickling. Today we are going to pickle something again. So we cooked something last week, we're gonna pickle something this week. This week we are going to pickle jalapenos. We're gonna do your standard pickle of my jalapeno peppers. This is something that I eat all the time. I use Greek yogurt a ton, and I use pickled jalapenos a ton. My good friends Chris and Faith gave us 19 jalapenos the other day, and when you have a harvest that big, what are you gonna do? And the best answer is usually always, let's pickle those bad boys. Look, this recipe is fairly straightforward and easy, but it's the tiny little things that you do that changes the way a batch comes out. And that's kind of what I wanna go over with y'all, is to get what you want out of this recipe, not necessarily what I want, but show you all the different ways to make this happen. Standard, we'll use a white vinegar, and they'll be hot. The more sugar that you add, the milder your jalapenos are gonna be. And the same goes with what vinegar you use. So if you use a white vinegar, it's gonna be a little bit hotter. But if you use an apple cider vinegar, it's gonna have a milder flavor. And the second thing that we're really gonna bring up, how to cook them. So some people boil their brine and throw jalapenos in at the end once they turn off the heat immediately, and that provides for a softer jalapeno. Whereas if you let the brine cool down for a little bit before you put it in the jar with the chopped jalapenos, you have a crispier, crunchier jalapeno, which is what I prefer. So for y'all, I'm cooking them all different ways, and at the end, I will recap on what I find with my pickles. Let's get to pickling, baby. And now we're prepping the jalapenos. First, clear your workstation. Now what I'm going to use for this is the mandolin. It's the quickest and easiest way, and since I had 19 jalapenos, it just made sense. Now you can use a regular knife, but what you want to do is cut your jalapenos a 1/4 of an inch thick. As you see, I'm living on the wild side until I get to the very end, and I use the hand guard in order to get that last jalapeno off the pepper. And this is the thickness that you want your jalapenos. About a 1/4 of an inch works perfectly for this recipe. If you don't have a mandolin, I have a link to one in the description below. Now that's done, let's get to the brine. Now this brine is fairly straightforward. You're going to throw 1 cup of white vinegar or apple cider vinegar, 1 cup of water, 1 tablespoon of salt, and 1 tablespoon of sugar. We're going to bring that to a boil and stir it and make sure everything is dissolved. Once that is nice and boiled, we'll turn off the heat and throw in our jalapenos for 8 minutes. Now this is one of the options. There are other options to not immediately cook the jalapenos, but put them in the jar and let the brine cool down, which I'll show later. The last thing we need to do is jar it. As you'll notice, I have a couple of cloves of smashed garlic at the bottom of the jar. I usually put garlic in any one of my pickles. For this, a set of tongs works best to grab all the jalapenos out first, and then we'll pour the brine over top. And voila! You've just finished your first set of pickled jalapenos. Put these in the fridge for 24 hours and they're ready to go. Now the second method I wanted to show you is actually jarring the fresh jalapenos in the actual jar and letting the brine cool down first before pouring it over top. This will provide for a crispier jalapeno and, to me, a preferable choice. And here is the result of all of our different pickles. As you can see, I use a lot of old jars. I keep jars of old pickles. Whenever there's a glass jar, I keep it because I know I'm pickling and chances are I'm gonna pickle and I'm giving away some. Thank you, buddy. Appreciate that. But chances are I'm giving away some pickles to my friends, so I like to keep these around the house, reuse them, recycle as much as possible, and so I can give them away. This one's actually going to Emily. But anyway, these are our three. This first batch is the batch that was made, and we immediately put the actual chopped jalapenos in after the brine was boiling, and we cooked them for like 8 minutes. So this is gonna be our softer batch. Then our second batch is where we let the brine cool for a couple of minutes before we actually threw them in to the jar that already had the pickles in it. And these are gonna be a little crispier, but we're using the white vinegar with it, so they are gonna be very spicy. These are gonna be pretty hot. Then our third batch, and actually I think this is my favorite. I've been going back and forth. I love the heat of this, but at the same time, I love the mildness of this. And the third batch is where I did the same method as I did with the second one. So I didn't cook the jalapenos, so they're still crispy, crunchy, but I used apple cider vinegar. So it's really up to you what vinegar you choose, what method you choose. It just depends on your preference. I wanted to cook them every way and try out everything I could and give y'all the best explanation so you could do what you wanted to do. Thank y'all so much for watching this video. Thank you for all your support. Please leave your comments below. Make sure to demolish that like button. Hit subscribe. Catch you next time on Cooking with Cork. Yeah, they're a lot milder. This does not have the heat in it. Damn, they're good.